How can we navigate the critical role of cyber insurance in a risk-filled digital world? I'm Mike Loder. Ending Cyber Risk starts now. Welcome back to Ending Cyber Risk, presented by the team at Arctic Wolf, where each episode we unpack the ways we can put an end to risky cyber behaviour. Now today we'll delve into the essential strategies for safeguarding your organisation's cybersecurity and providing practical guidance on evaluating its unique needs. Joining me now is Steve Hunter, Director of Sales Engineering Australia New Zealand for Arctic Wolf. Good to see you. What exactly is cyber insurance for those who are, not across it?
Absolutely, Mike. Thank you very much for having us back. So what is cyber insurance? Well, just like any other insurance, it's a mechanism for an organisation to transfer risk in the event of a cyber incident or breach. Now, the types of things that cyber insurance policies will cover can vary, but some examples of coverage include costs related to remediation, negotiation and payment of ransoms in the event of ransomware, or perhaps covering the damages associated with the stolen or leaked data itself, such as things like credit monitoring obligations.
Okay.
And then one final thing to note is that for many organisations today, obtaining this coverage has become much more difficult and more costly. Benefit limits have been decreasing and exclusions have been increasing as cyber insurers have had to work out how better to create profiles.
Okay, so why is it so critical for organisations to actually have this? What would you say to people out there who might, put insurance at the bottom of the pile?
Well, I think that's an excellent question, actually. And I think it's important to look at this perhaps from two different perspectives. So from the organisation's internal perspective, literally every day we operate in an environment where there is a clear and persistent cyber risk to the business. And I think we all know that. We're at risk from failings both in the work environment, so employees falling foul of phishing attempts or social engineering, perhaps IT's accidental misconfigurations, or even unanticipated vulnerabilities in the systems that we've chosen to deploy. But we also have the external perspective where there are deliberate activities of adversaries, both sophisticated and even not so sophisticated, but that are still very well tooled. And so organizations spend just a bunch of time and money and effort on constantly improving their cybersecurity to try to mitigate those risks, but not all risks can be mitigated. And that residual risk, that's what we need cyber insurance to address.
Okay, and important that we have these discussions. So what should organisations look for when evaluating a policy to see if it's right for them? No one wants to be taken for a ride in something that perhaps they don't understand fully.
Well, I think it's important as organisations are looking at cyber insurance is to remember that there is a positive side of cyber insurance outside of just the risk mitigation, which is just going through the process of obtaining insurance has just a bunch of other benefits. So it helps the organisation grow as they accept that challenge to make positive changes and make their progress on their security journey. And in working with the insurer, you're exposed to both frameworks with which to think about and model cyber risk, but also get introduced to just a bunch of resources and experts that can help partner with you along the journey. So when it comes to the policy itself, look, every policy is different, with a wide range spanning from very bare bones offerings to more sort of expensive and premium offerings. At the lower end, entry-level offerings often are just endorsements to standard corporate insurance policies, but they'll often exclude or severely limit the sort of coverage that will happen in a costly cyber incident. So a more fully fledged solution is definitely a standalone policy with limits that are devoted exclusively to covering cyber losses, incident response, and then loss control that's specifically tailored for cyber risk.
Okay, Steve, if we can expand on this a little bit further, what does cyber insurance in the market look like more broadly speaking?
Well, it has been a pretty impressive growth, unfortunately, in cyber insurance premiums over the last 5 or 6 years, and we've certainly seen that in Australia. But the reality is that carriers are becoming much more selective about who they insure and who they renew coverage for, which means that organisations can't get complacent. But rather, companies need to remain constantly aware of their risk profile and what adjustments they need to make in order just to retain the coverage that they have. But interestingly, from some recent research that we've done, we've had input from the insurance industry that shows us that whilst we've seen premiums rise a lot over the last couple of years, we are seeing a tempering in that increase as the risks are better able to be quantified. So if you can get it, then in 2025, it is likely that you won't have the same very large premium increases that we've seen over the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, if you can get it, which is a hopeful statement for many businesses. But what steps can organisations take to acquire cyber insurance? Let's talk basics, foundation. Where should they be looking to get started?
Well, back to the basics. The first task is obviously to take a look at yourself, look inward, evaluate your current security architecture and your policies, and then understand what's needed to qualify for a strong and comprehensive cyber insurance policy. Now, whilst every policy, as I said before, is different, there is some commonality around the controls you can put in place. In Australia, the Essential 8 is a great place to start, but just broadly for the international viewers, a few basic security controls are absolutely required. Multi-factor authentication, endpoint detection and response, being able to demonstrate regular system backups and having effective email filtering are part of it. Also, patch management, importantly, incident response and planning, as well as employee training and awareness and making sure that your human component is brought up to speed. But what's very important, though, is that it's key to find and use a method to communicate effectively with your broker and insurer to highlight those things that you've done really well to reduce your risk and to make you a more attractive cyber insurance risk for them to take on.
And Steve, just to flip it on its head, what do cyber insurers look out for when they're assessing or shaking down a business in order to find out what best suits them?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're very effective and have gotten very effective at asking probing questions. And we've seen that in the sorts of volume of questions that happen in the questionnaires. And so the better you are able to communicate what you've done, where you're at today, in a language that they understand, borrowing from them, but also looking at the industry frameworks that are out there to help you communicate that, that's the best way to start obtaining effective cyber insurance.
Good stuff from you. And as always, I appreciate you and the team at Arctic Wolf for chatting to us and giving us some insight into the cybersecurity sector.